good. Feels good to get some wins at the crib. Now we off to H-Town. Keep taking it one game at a time.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Rice is back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. Hawks sweep the weekend slate, beating both the Philadelphia 76ers and the Golden State Warriors in one weekend, and now are only a game back of 500. The team is 8-3 in the month of March, and they continue to move forward and look to be playing their best basketball as the season is starting to wrap up and we get into playoff time. So we're going to go ahead and get into all that on today's episode of Believe in Hawks. Funny story, I actually recorded the episode for the Golden State game. I had to recently plug up my mic. Never realized my mic was never on the whole episode. So I basically did 30 minutes and there was no audio. So, and it was already like 2 a.m. and I was like, you know what? We'll do a full encapsulation in this episode of the Sixers and Warriors because I want to talk about that game and then other things like the team, the direction and stuff during this episode. So appreciate you guys sticking with me here. Do Believe in Hawks as we complete our second full season of the podcast coming up here in a few weeks. So really appreciate you guys for, being along this journey with me for sure. It's not like I'm like LeBron and can give y'all two more, but you never know. But yeah, so if you enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel, RIC2K Sports, Believe in Hawks, tell your friends about it. Available on any audio platform available. Like the video, comment on the video. Any type of love, any type of interaction helps the video get out there, helps the video reach other Hawks fans. We definitely want to bring more people to the channel, want to bring more people to the pod. All of you, my loyal listeners who have been listening to me throughout it, I just want to say thank you. So, but enough of the pleasantries, I guess. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, Hawks tonight win 132-119 over the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, we understand Philadelphia has a ton of injuries. They are not the team that they thought they were going to be. Embiid's out for the year. Paul's out for the year. Maxi's been out for a while. Drummond's out. I mean, they had Oubre, a ton of injuries. This season has been one of the worst that this could turn out for that team. Hawks obviously came into the night's game needing to take care of business, and they did that. I think you saw a lot of great things. And this game was led by Zachary Riascher, who led – he didn't lead the Hawks because the trade went off in the second half. He was the second leading scorer and had his second 16-point quarter in the last 9 days. So clearly Riascher has found his I think he's found his base. I think he's found his base to lift off of, and now he's starting to play at a consistent level. Quinn Snyder talked about it after the game. He said that it's not that the team is necessarily doing something for Riascher. Riascher is just playing good basketball. And I think that's been reflected. Riascher was very impressive against the Sixers in tonight's game, and he continues to go out there and just make that last push for Rookie of the Year as that award is starting to, we're getting to the end of the season. People are starting to think about award winners. Trae Young, very vocal tonight on social media, on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, calling Dyson Daniels Defensive Player of the Year, calling Riascher Rookie of the Year. That sounds like a man who is bought in and believes in these guys that he is in the locker room with. And just saying, doesn't sound like a guy who's sleeping to me. But I digress. So we're going to the numbers in this game tonight. Like I said, Philadelphia was depleted, right? So this was a game the Hawks should have won. Hawks, for the most part, controlled this game. They had some lapses, which happens in a game like this, but they pretty much were able to control the game. Hawks tonight shot 55% from the field, so they played really well offensively. This was another game where they just seemed a little more of a well-oiled machine offensively. They seemed like offense was easy. They were taking advantage of defensive looks that the 76ers were giving them, attacking, back cuts, finding shooters, things of that nature. And I think a lot of that's become part of the development of getting different guys who can perform off ball outside of Trae in a Levert and a Dyson Daniels. And I think Trae mentioned that also at the game. He said, he said, I love it. He said, I love the fact when he was asked about being able to play more off ball, he said, I love it. Because he said, I just want to win ball games. And, I think that this is obviously a big part of the Hawks development, being able to play off ball and still being able to maintain offense. Because obviously it's very well documented this season how the Hawks have struggled when Trae Young has left the floor. Now, in the last couple of games, they've seemed to be able to keep it up as of recent. And a big part of that I've also thought was Vic Krejci. I said when Vic Krejci left, that put a lot more pressure on Dyson. Vic Krejci's gotten back, and you're seeing a much more better offensive flow, even with the second unit. Hawks shot 46% from three tonight. I think yesterday he shot 45%. So that's also been a big part of why they've had a lot of success. They're shooting the three ball really, really well right now, almost getting around. I mean, you had what? 15 yesterday, 17 tonight. I mean, that's 32 threes in the last 2 games. I mean, that's great. Because, we know how the Hawks have struggled at times to shoot the ball, especially behind the arc. And so the fact they're having this type of success offensively from beyond the arc opens things up for their offense. And again, it's just getting good looks and guys making open shots. Hawks had 16 turnovers tonight. In this game, you could kind of see that. They were turning the ball over a little bit, but at the same time, they were winning the possession battle. So it was kind of like, nulling it out and not making it a big deal. So it's 16 turnovers. Obviously, you want to get that down. But for the most part, it didn't really hinder the Hawks offense that much. Hawks, again, 35 assists. Yesterday had 37. Saturday had 37. We know the key to their game. Ball movement, motion. If they're in the mid to high 30s, they probably feel good about every game they're in because that means they're getting good looks, they're creating good and easy offense, effective offense, and being able to take advantage of it with the looks they're getting. We know how they've had some games where they've had a lot of good looks and couldn't knock them down. And when they're having a higher assist count, it means they're knocking down more shots. And think about it. They made a total of 48 field goals tonight. 35 of those came off assists. So that just kind of tells you the type of offense they're trying to run in Atlanta. Won the rebounding tonight, 39-37, but Sixers did win the offensive boards, 13-10 as well. Also, there's a lot of text in this game. Niang got teed up. He was barking. Niang's funny. Like, Niang is a very funny guy. Like, he barks. Like, he it's funny. I remember how, like, so many people, would talk about how the Hawks don't got dogs, right? They got guys who bark. Really, because outside of Trey, who barks, who else is really barking like that for the Hawks that you like memorize? Like, oh yeah, he a barker. Niang barks. LeVert barked. There was video leaking of him barking at Jonathan Kuminga with the Warriors game. Man don't even be barking, but we remember the Pacers game with Mandarin when he got hit with that cheap shot to his face, came back, leveled him on the next possession on defense. So, I mean, clearly, Hawks with that trade got some dogs in the building, and I think it's a great sight to see. And it goes with Trey, because Trey low-key a dog. When he barks a lot at players, it's just you don't really hear about it a lot, but he does it a lot. So, obviously, from that perspective, Hawks tonight, like I said, took care of business, and they dominated the Sixers like they should have. And like I said, the fact that they're only a game out of 500, I think some people were on social saying, I didn't even think we would get here after Jalen went down. And now the Hawks are a game away. Now, obviously, their next game is against Houston. That's a tough game, so we'll have to see how they perform in that game. But, I mean, their schedule's not that hard to end the year. And so the Hawks have a very strong chance to finish at or over 500. I've said that is a big goal for this team, I think, in my opinion, is to finish with a winning record. It'll be the first winning record the Hawks have had in a couple of seasons. Pre-DeJounte Murray was when the last time they had one. And I think it'll put them in a position where, you feel pretty good about the development moving forward. Your next 3 games, Rockets, Heat, Bucks. So you're playing 3 teams two are playoff teams firmly, and one's like on the verge of like they're in the 10th seed, but they're still competing. So it's the Heat. So that's what you got looking at that. And like I said, Hawks, did some good things tonight. Trae Young, great in the second half. Zachary, great again in the game, which I'll go dive into him more. Niang, second straight game where he was really good in these last 2. I think he had 25. I think he had 24 against the Golden State Warriors, and he had 20 tonight against the Sixers. Sorry. But yeah, so he's been really good. And I've talked about it. Niang gets a lot of heat because he's the easy player to pick on. He's the easy player to kind of be like, oh, why is he barking? He's not that good. Like I said, Niang's a guy, he had 23 against the Warriors. But Niang's a guy who you look at him and if he's not on your team, you think he's a bum, you think he's trash, you think he's not good. He looks like Winnie the Pooh, all that. But when you actually watch him, like he can hoop. Like he can make some shots. He can hoop a little bit. And then he'll get up like, oh, he got 20. kind of gives you Gallo vibes. And that was one of the biggest things that people would say when we got Niang on the team is he kind of reminds people of Gallo. Gallo was kind of a bigger guy, couldn't really move, but offensively he had a bag. You give it a Gallo, he go to work, and it was effective. So, and I think Niang kind of has that a little bit. He's just more of a barker, I would say. So, and really tonight's game was interesting because it wasn't like it was like 6 guys. Like Golden State, you could say, different guys from Young, from Okongwu really had a big game. LeVert had a nice game. Niang had a nice game. Multiple people had nice games, and you just saw it all collect against Golden State, and they were to win. But this game was just more first 3 quarters, it was really Riascher and Niang who were leading the offense, and they still had a pretty comfortable lead. So that just kind of shows you how they played defensively tonight. And, again, you're taking care of a depleted 76ers team, right? I do want to give some love to Dominic Barlow tonight. 13, 10, and 2. Double-double for him. And he did it on 100% shooting from 3, field goals, and the free throw line with a block. So Barlow, who is going to be tasked with the backup center spot, maybe for the rest of the year, depending on what happens with Larry Nance. Clint Capella seems to be out at least for the rest of the regular season with a hand injury, a carpal tunnel injury, or whatever, carpal injury. Barlow seems to be the guy. And he's a guy who's a part of that development system. They're helping him learn how to pass, cut, score, all those things. You're going to see up and down performances. We remember the Brooklyn Nets game. That wasn't one of his better. But tonight, he had a strong game. And that's what you want to see from a young player like him. And continue to see him grow, continue to see him get better. So, Sixers took care of business tonight. Hawks did what they needed to do. We can't knock the hustle. But I do briefly want to touch on the Golden State game. Obviously, that game was the big game of the weekend. That was the Arena State Farm was packed. Great arena, great vibes, everything. Great atmosphere. No Steph Curry in that game, right? But Warriors have won a few games with Jimmy Butler without Curry. So this was not a game the Hawks could come into and think this would be some easy game without Curry. This was pre-Jimmy Butler. You would be like, Hawks should be very much favored. I think the Hawks were still underdogs, even with Curry out yesterday. So that kind of told you how people view the Warriors. And the reason I want to talk about this game is because Onyeka Okongwu really had a huge game. Onyeka Okongwu has continued to show that he is just, you see the growth. He has played so well since he became a starter. 22 and 12 and 6 is what he got against Golden State. In a matchup where, Golden State doesn't really have any bigs, any elite bigs, defensive bigs. So that was a great matchup for Okongwu to take advantage, and he did. That was one frustration that a lot of fans had with Clint Capella over the years was, even if obviously he has the size, but like he wasn't, since he's not a good offensive player, he can't really punish teams for that too much. Obviously he can get some points, but that's just not his thing. Okongwu can legitimately in matchups punish a team because he can legitimately go get you 20, 25. And he's also been shooting the ball from 3 well. He shot 2 from 3 on Saturday. So he's been playing really good basketball right now. And I really wanted to touch on that because he really, really played well. And as I mentioned, that game, Hawks at 37 assists, shot 57%, shot 43% from the field. I mean, they basically, in a lot of categories, outplayed Golden State. And Hawks also won the turnover off points battle. Hawks had 18 points off turnovers. Golden State only had 9 turnovers. That basically means the Hawks scored almost every turnover the Golden State had. Hawks had 14 turnovers. Golden State only had 18 points off turnovers. Not 18. 16 points off turnovers. So, again, kind of shows you Hawks have their formula. Create turnovers, run, get easy looks, good ball movement, get good looks, make your open shots. They found a lot of success the last 2 games doing that type of formula. And also, I want to mention Dyson Daniels tonight has now reached 200 steals in a season. The youngest player to record that number since the stat was tracked back in 1973, 1974. Dyson Daniels getting into the record books once again. What can we say about Dyson Daniels, everybody? Dyson Daniels has been such a blessing in disguise for this team. Literally when that trade was made, a lot of people didn't know a lot about Dyson Daniels. A lot of people questioned if Dyson Daniels was going to be relevant. And he has now made himself one of the most relevant players in the league. Popularity is growing, nicknamed the Great Barrier Thief. I feel like I see NBA channels promoting Dyson more. Obviously, he's representing the country of Australia, so they're promoting him back home. Dyson Daniels, man, he's been fantastic. Fantastic. So just wanted to put that in there because Dyson's been really, really, really good. Right? Let's see. What else? Also, Trae Young set a career high for assists tonight with 11 games left. So Trae Young having one of his best passing seasons since he's into the league. And he's one of the best passers of this current generation of players, but doesn't get the love. And I hate that for him because he doesn't get the love for it. But he's been wonderful. He's been great. And he continues to ball and continue to really lead this team and be the engine that they need as they continue to move forward. And I kind of want to stay on Trae a little bit here because, there was a video, going viral. The Water Boys, I don't know if y'all heard of them. I've been on their show before. Had Lou Williams on, right? Asking the question, who's fighting for Trae Young, right? All that stuff, right? And, great content by those guys, by the way. So go over there to the channel, The Water Boys, and subscribe. Lou's answer when they asked him about Trae Young kind of echoes to me again what the national media has perceived this situation with Trae. And what I mean by that is Trae Young, people think that there's this, they can't get Trae Young a star. They got to get him out. It's almost like this. People are trying to throw this pity party for Trae. Like, they're not giving you a star in Atlanta. You need to move on. They're not going to do right by you, et cetera, blah, 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 right? And the thing is, people don't truly understand what's going on right now in Atlanta. They're building a culture. They're building an identity. They're building a style of play. And he is the core piece of that entire process. He is literally the engine to what they're trying to do. The way they've built this team is for Trae Young. They did not build this team to be able to be sustainable without Trae Young. That's not what they built this team for. I'm seeing articles, Hawks are projected to draft a guard. Couldn't mean the end of Trae Young. Let's be honest here. That's not going to happen. The media wants to really push the Trae Young needs to go somewhere as narrative. But if you actually know ball, you know what this team is. I think everybody is saying it because that's the way it looks like. The Hawks are trading up. The fact the Hawks could finish the season with a winning record without Jalen Johnson and some of the injuries they've had this season tells me a lot about this team. I've gone on record to say the Hawks are on schedule to have a boom year next year, to be a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference and have a winning record. And we'll see in terms of competitiveness in the Eastern Conference what that looks like with next year's Eastern Conference, right? Because we got to see how teams change, et cetera, and who emerges and who doesn't. But everything they're doing is for Trae. And I'll say this again. I think Trae Young signed off on everything they're doing. He said, okay, let me see. And after almost a whole season down, I've said this. I see no signs of a man who wants to leave this city. Unless the Hawks themselves as an organization, Landry and them say we need to move on from Trae, I don't think Trae Young is sitting here thinking I need to move on from Atlanta. And I really want to make that clear to people because, again, what I told y'all earlier in the podcast, the support he's had for Riascher, Dyson, these guys have been great for him. Remember, the Hawks asked Trae Young before the season, hey, we're going to get a little bit younger. We're going to bring in some young pieces. We need you to become more of a leader. We need you to take these guys under your wing. We need you guys to really create a relationship with these guys. And that's exactly what Trey did. You saw him work out with Jalen. You saw him hang out with Riascher. You saw him hang out with Dyson. You're seeing the leadership maturation of Trae Young. And I think that for a guy who people think wants to leave Atlanta, I just don't see a person putting in that type of time with those guys if they knew they were leaving. So this narrative that Trae Young needs to get out because there's no stars, they tried to bring a star on DeJounte and it didn't work out, and so they failed, and now it's just trying to start over. And no. Trae Young is still in his prime. Trae Young sees the pieces the Hawks have around him. And now the question is, with all these pieces, is how far can they go? People have already tried to judge this core and say it's not going to be good enough. But you really don't know. There was probably a point where some people thought the core of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic was not going to be good enough, and then they broke through and won a championship. There's multiple teams that probably were like, maybe they're not going to break through. And it happens because this is a hard sport to win a championship in, because you have to have a lot of things go your way. Health, other teams not having good health, and then guys stepping up to the occasion. And so, to me, I view all that media attention on Trae and think to myself, Trae Young is a big part of what they're doing in Atlanta and the culture they're building. And I still remember this, guys. Shams, a couple years ago, actually probably last season, said that Quinn Snyder and Trae Young know they need each other to win. And from all indications, it seems like to me that they're building this team as such. Getting the right pieces around Trae Young. We're getting the players that Quinn Snyder needs. We're running the system that Quinn Snyder wants to run. And we think that will lead to us to success. So, I know people want to say different things and think that Trae Young's on the way out. And some people, media is going to say Trae Young needs to leave. And all these rumors are starting to be created. But, I mean, the truth is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. So, y'all see what's going on. Like, be honest. Like, do y'all see any indication of a man who wants to leave Atlanta? Like, be real. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't seen something. That's just my take. So, after that rant, before we get out of here, though, I want to talk about Zach again, Zachary Riascher, because he's been great these last two games, and he's been great all week, and he's a guy who is, like I said, Quinn said he's playing really good basketball right now. It's funny. I saw people talking on X about some people think Riascher is going to be better than Jalen Johnson. It's actually kind of funny that we have that discussion. Obviously, we don't know. I think the biggest thing about Riascher, and again, I've always said this about situations in the past, people don't like uncertainty. They don't like not knowing. And so when they don't know, they tend to pick the worst just because they don't know, unless they're an optimistic person. And I think when we drafted Riascher, a lot of people didn't know if he even had the ability to become an all-star level player. Some people think maybe he could be. I mean, I saw comparisons to Tobias Harris, which now I don't think he's Tobias Harris. I think everybody can see Zachary Riascher is not Tobias Harris. But I think what you've seen is a guy who you've seen so much improvement from day one to now. And he's playing his best basketball at the best time. And now you just think about the future and you get excited because you think about Zach gets an offseason to just work on his game. And we've seen the videos posted by the Hawks media members showing Zach after practice consistently working on his game, putting up shots, working with coaches. He wants to good. He shows you the drive that he wants to be good. That's a part of the Hawks DNA they talk about. Guys who are committed, who want to be great. When you develop guys, it's not just a one-way street. It's not coaches coaching you. The player has to want to be developed. He has to want to get better. He has to want to improve his game. And Zach wants to be better. And you've seen him get better. and then you get another offseason under his belt coming up whenever the season ends. And it really just makes you kind of sit there and say, man, what could he turn into next year? And listen, I've said this about Zach. You know, if the Hawks resign LeVert, it will be difficult at times for him to crack that finishing lineup just because LeVert is able to create his own shot. He takes pressure off Trae Young. They can do off ball with Trae Young now in clutch moments with LeVert on the floor. It kind of allows him to have a more fluid offense when he's on the floor, which is one of the reasons why I think they want to keep him. And I'm not saying they can't do it with Zach, but Zach's not necessarily known for creating his own shot. But in the minutes he plays, because I would assume his minutes will be up to like next year on a more consistent basis. The fact that he's been able to perform the way he's been able to perform on the efficiency, on the numbers he's had, with like the lack, without having those regular 30-plus minute starter minutes, it just makes you think and realize this man, Riascher, is really headed in the right trajectory, and you're excited for his development. You're excited for what he can do, and you're excited for what is to come with this guy. I caught him on TV. Hey, that's my French goat right there. I also got my Australian goat and Dyson Daniels. So 2 players who have been huge for this team this year. And as a Hawks fan, I think it's one of those things now where Hawks fans are obviously going to be optimistic, but are cautiously optimistic. But I think Hawks fans are excited about what's to come. And I think the thing is, in these types of situations, especially the way that the Atlanta basketball brand has been viewed, the Hawks just got to go out there and show it. They got to go out there and show it. And next year will be the year to really shut people up, unless they make a run in the playoffs. Like right now, it looks like they're going to play Boston. Biggest way to get people buzzing, take Boston to 7 games. If you ever beat Boston, that would be crazy. But it would be huge, but take Boston to 7. And now people are going to be buzzing about the Hawks next year. So I just want to talk about that a little bit because Zach has been really impressive and he deserves his shine. He deserves his love. Absolutely. So, but I think that's about it here for Believe in Hawks. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below about anything we discussed today. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review, tell people about Believe in Hawks, whether you're listening in the car, going to work, eating at lunch, dinner, cleaning up the house, whatever. Turn on Believe in Hawks. Let's talk some Hawks basketball. I definitely appreciate you guys. Definitely let me be part of your day. And also follow me on Twitter or X, Bricey_2K, BRICEY_2K. But that's about all for me. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.